going to record this.
And it's nice to meet everybody, the new people. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay. Good, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll get next one. Go ahead and do that.
Okay. So the 13 concepts of understanding your money matters. The first one that we're going to be talk about today is principle of building equity. So if we're going to look at this graph right here, this one is called the X curve. And this is the ideal financial timeline that everybody is supposed to follow in their financial life as an adult. So we're all graduating college around the age of 25, right? So ideally, everybody is working and on increasing their assets, right? We're building our families, we're getting our jobs, we start working, and to decrease liabilities. By the age of 65, everybody's trying to get their mortgage paid off, their cars paid, and to decrease liability so we can take care or be ready for a happy retirement. And to increase assets, it means to pay off the mortgage and to build some equity there. But unfortunately, only 5% of all the Americans have a plan for their finances, while 95% do not plan for retirement or do not have a plan that's properly set up. So protecting your income and building your assets is a key to create a stable financial future. So when we are younger, we're building our assets, as I said, we're working. So that's why we need protection to protect our health, to make sure that we're healthy and we can make money. All right, in case of death or disability, we're just building our family. So that's why it's very important to have a protection for our family and for ourselves, first of all. When we are getting older, we need protection of our legacy, of what we build, of our estate. We need protection for our retirement. So that's why during all of our lifetime, it's very important to have a proper protection. So as we said, not a lot of people are saving money. Saving is not an option. Saving is mandatory for everyone. But we have to have a proper plan in place. So proper protection and proper retirement is very important. That's what's everybody's function is of all of us who are in census, to inform everybody who is around us on the proper protection plan. So we need to plan and do not fail to plan correctly. What are our options to save money and to prepare for retirement? Everybody says that we are going to rely on Social Security, right? Everybody thinks that when they're going to be retired, they're going to get some Social Security payments and they will live out of those money. But did you know that according to the Social Security Administration, 68 out of 100 people over the age of 65 have incomes of 30,000 or less. You probably are seeing the inflation rate, and everybody knows the prices are going up. And you understand that 30,000 is not enough to cover our everyday expenses. Especially, we have to take a look at our expenses that we have today. And it's very hard to go back to save or to have less money. You know, if you're accustomed to have a proper lifestyle, it's hard to switch it to another lifestyle, to live on a lower income. So what will you depend on when you're going to retire? Will you be ready to retire? If you're going to go to the Social Security website, in small font right there, it says that without changes, the current payroll taxes collected, the taxes that are collected today from the people who are working today, are not covering all the people who are retired. So the money may not be enough to timely pay all scheduled benefits. By the year of 2037, those funds will be depleted. So there's going to be nothing to be paid out to the people who are retiring. And now other people will say, okay, I don't care about Social Security. I'm just going to work until I die. it's not a matter if you can work or not. It's a matter of your employer. If they are going to be needing somebody who is slower, okay, when we're retired, we move slowly, or nowadays everything's becoming computerized. There's not such a need of more people to work, right? So first of all, the people who are retired, they're getting laid off. So your employer is gonna look for somebody who is younger and who is getting paid less than a person who is retired and has more experience. Somebody else can say that, well, I'm going to rely on my pension plan. But today, not a lot of companies offer pension plans. The pension plans are incredibly rare because people leave more than expected because the medical field is getting better. So that's why the big corporations, they said, no, we're not going to do any pension plans. Somebody else will say, well, I'm just going to rely on my personal savings. I have a couple of homes, and I'm just going to rent them out. I'll do something. I'm good. I'm going to save money. But only 10% of the population has savings today, disposable income on an average to save. And if we're going to look at the inflation rates, everybody remembers the what if calculator, right? So we saw how much the money from today, how much is it going to be worth in 10 years, let's say. Well, we'll cover inflation in our next slide. But sources of retirement need to be reliable. This is the one thing that we all need to think about. It's up to each of us to make sure that we have a proper retirement plan in place. Because as we saw, we can rely only on ourselves, and we have to plan accordingly. Let's take a look at how banks work. So everybody knows what the bank is, right? We get our money, we deposit it in the bank, and we can use it whenever we need it. A lot of people say, okay, I'm saving money in the bank. You know this guy, Warren Buffett, right? So if he's gonna make a deposit in a bank, he's gonna get the same percentage rate of return, right? How much is a saving plan in a bank? It's about 0 to 0.02%, 2% maximum, right? If we're gonna deposit money in a bank, in a savings account or in a CD account, the max that we're gonna get is 2%. And then how banks are getting money from us? By giving us credit, right? The bank is giving us credit for our mortgage, for our car. The bank is giving us a credit card that we can use when we need it. So this is how the banks are making money out of us. But you know what percent they're charging us? They're charging us from 12 to 22%, while they're giving us back only 2% in our savings. So I wouldn't say that it's fair, but this is what it is. Everybody puts money in a bank, but nobody makes money from a bank. Let's also cover simple interest versus compound interest, because when we deposit money in a bank, we're depositing money with a simple interest. When the bank is giving us a credit, the credit is calculated on compound interest. So that's why it's very important to understand the difference between simple interest and compound interest. So let's see, what's a simple interest? Let's say I have $10,000. I deposited in the CD account that's giving me 10% interest yearly, right? So each year I am getting $1,000 on my investment of $10,000, on my principal of $10,000. So at 50 years, I put those money in the bank. For 50 years, it grew by 50,000, right? So my ending balance is 60,000 in 50 years. Let's look at the compound interest. What is compound interest? I have the same principal amount, 10,000. I am depositing it with a 10% interest. So on the first year, I'm gonna have $1,000 in my bank account, return on my investment. Then on the second year is not the same 10,000 principal, but my principal is 11,000. So my interest is added to my principal, and this is considered my principal now, the 11,000. So in this year, with a 10% interest, I'm gonna make $1,100, and so on and so forth. So in the third year, the $1,100 are gonna be added to my principal of 11,000. So I'm gonna have 12,100 with a 10% interest. This is gonna be what I'm gonna make that year, 1,210. On the fourth year, the 13,310 will be added at 10% interest. So my total amount for that year is going to be 14,641, and so on and so forth. So by the year 50, this is the amount that I'm going to have in my bank account, 1,173,909. So which account would you like to invest? Simple interest or compound interest? This one, correct? So that's how it's important to understand. Compound interest, this is how banks are charging us on credit cards on a compound interest versus simple interest. And when we're planning our retirement, it's very important to find those accounts that is going to pay us a good return, but with compound interest. And there are products that we can find like this. So what's the power of compound interest? Did anyone hear about the rule of 72? It was discovered by Albert Einstein. So what is it? The number of years to double an investment by dividing 72 by the annual rate of return. So if we're gonna go back here, I put $10,000 as a principal on the 10% interest rate. So if I'm gonna divide 72 by 10%, this is how I'm gonna find out when my investment is gonna bring me $20,000. It's gonna double. My investment is gonna double. So this is gonna be what, on year 7, right? So every 7 years, my principal investment is gonna double. So every 7 years, I'll get 20,000 on my bank account. This is the rule of 72. And that's the formula again here. So if you have an account that's paid under 4% interest rate, every 18 years, the amount is going to double. So we're dividing 72 by 4. So we'll know that every 18 years, if we'll find a bank account or a product that's going to bring us 8% interest, every 9 years, our amount is going to double. So same thing, 72 divided by 8, it's 9. So every 9 years, our amount is going to double. So that's how we can, it's a simple formula to calculate our investment. So it's not about how much money we invest, right? But it's about the interest rate. And it's about to find a good product, to plan basically, to be smart about our money. So you have to apply the information you know to yourself first, and then you can talk to other people and advise them on that. Time also is very important when we're looking at investment and saving. So let's say we have two friends, Jill and Mark. Jill is young and very smart about her money. So she decided to invest, she had $6,000 saved, and she decided to invest in an account that's with a compound interest, right? So at age 19, she invested $6,000 until the age of 30 because she decided she's gonna get married, so she stopped putting money into that account at age 30. So she just kept the money on that account. While Mark decided that he wants to have fun in his life, so when he got married at age 30, he started saving money, depositing money into his account. So as we see, Jill stopped making payments in the account. Mark just started at age 30. So Mark kept on depositing $6,000 in every year on that account until the age of 65 because he wanted to have a retirement plan in place. So Jill invested $72,000 because she invested from age 19 until the age of 30. So she invested only $72,000 and she just left money in that account just to sit there. Mark invested for all of these years, total of $216,000. But because Jill was faster, she had a lot of time, she had more time, she started investing earlier than Mark did. This is her amount accumulated, 1.7 million, while Mark has only 1.129 million into his account. So as you can see, time is very important. So the earlier we start saving, the better, because time works for us. So the difference is 570,000. So Jill has a lot more money than Mark does because time works for us. So again, as I was saying about the credit cards, compound interest can also work against you. So if somebody is charging you with a compound interest, of course, this is going to work against you. So if you have a $3,000 credit card balance at a 19% annual interest rate, and you only pay the minimum payment, 2% balance, right? So by applying the rule of 72, we can calculate that it's going to take at least 30 years to pay off the credit card balance. How many payments will it take you? Over 720 payments if you're going to pay only the minimum balance. And how much will you pay in interest only? More than 8,500 in interest charges alone. So that's why it's very important to understand all of these concepts and to know how to apply them in your life. Taxes, also, it's an important thing to know when we're talking about money. Taxes, how do they say? Two things are inevitable, death and taxes, right? So we earn money, we're taxed on our earnings, we're paying income tax. We're going to the store to spend the money, we have the sales tax. We're putting money into a savings account, we have to pay capital gains tax because everything, we earn money, we earn interest, we still are taxed on that interest. Even when we die, our heirs have to pay estate taxes. Even then we have to plan. So tax is one of the biggest obstacles to savings. It's very important to understand how it works, and you need to strategize on that to properly plan. So let's see, not a lot of people know. So a lot of people know that we make money, we have to pay taxes, right? So this is called tax now accounts. There are some accounts that you pay taxes later, but that a lot of people do not know that there are tax advantaged accounts. So when we are investing our money, we have to check all of our baskets to make sure that we're not gonna invest money or put money only into one basket, right? In the tax now, this is the most popular, tax now. So let's say we're buying property, we're buying a house. We have to pay taxes on that, or real estate, or it's very popular to invest money into stocks, right? It was popular, crypto. This is also a tax now category. Everything that you made, all the money that you made, you're taxed this year. You're going to have to report it in your tax return for that year and pay taxes on that. So certificates of deposits, checking, savings accounts, all those money in there, stocks, real estate, everything is taxed now. So you made those money and you pay taxes right away at the year end. Tax later accounts, what does it mean? You're investing this money into an, let's say a 401k or an IRA account, individual retirement account. You are investing those money right now, the money grows, and then when you're pulling out money, bigger amounts because they grew over the years, because we saw that time is very important. So this is when you're getting taxed on a higher amount. So it's also, it might be tricky. You have to plan properly. So tax later, it's called individual retirement accounts, 401ks, 403bs plans, pension plans, and variable or fixed annuities. This is tax later accounts. There are also some tax advantaged accounts. So what does it mean? That the earnings accumulate tax deferred and may be capital gains tax-free and penalty-free. So we earn those money today. So it was the tax now money. We earn those money, we pay taxes on them, and then we invested them into a Roth IRA or cash value life insurance policy, and we just let it grow. So in this case, if we're pulling money out, we're not paying taxes on these amounts. So it's very important to think about this, to find products that give you this option. That's why we recommend to all of our clients to do a PFC to see where they're investing money, which tax category it applies to, and to help them plan to diversify their investments, diversify their portfolio. So also the fifth step that we need to talk about when we're talking about money is inflation. What is inflation? Inflation is the general increase in prices. We all see, everybody's talking about inflation today. So The money loses its purchasing power, basically. So it's good. The economists say that it's good when the economy is not, the inflation is not really high, but deflation also is not really high when everything is level. As of today, we're seeing the current inflation rate is 8.5%. What does it mean? With $100 that we can buy today, or the products that we can buy today, we won't be able to buy the same things in, let's say, 5 years if it continues to be 8.5%, right? The value of that $100 is going to be a lot less because the inflation grows. So what does it mean to you? The purchasing value of your dollar is decreasing. And if your income is not growing 8% every year, it means that you're not going to be able to afford the same lifestyle as you do today in 5 years, let's say. So you are getting outpaced by inflation. That is why it's very important to have a plan B, either find another job that's going to pay you more to save, to outpace the inflation, or to find an income or a product, a vehicle, savings vehicle that's going to give you a return of 8% per year. So you're not going to be outpaced by inflation. We need to have a plan B or a compounding account so we don't get outpaced by inflation. That is very important to know. So what are the 4 major steps to create financial strength? The first step is to manage your money wisely. We see all of this, it's basic information that everybody knows. It's all over TikTok, right? Everybody's advising us on how to do that, but still it's simple, but we need to apply it to our life. So don't spend more than you make, manage your debts, pay off your debts, create an emergency fund because we never know what's going to happen tomorrow. And it's very important to set your financial goals to grow more. Step number 2, which is very important, as I said on the X curve that we saw the first time, to protect your income and your family. Protecting your assets are key ingredients to create a stable financial future, right? In case that something unforeseen happens, you will have the emergency fund, you will have everything properly planned, and your family is not gonna suffer because you're not able to do it. Because that's why protection is very important. Step number 3, to accumulate assets. So when we're doing this, it's very important to understand the effect of inflation, the thing that we discussed before, the power of compound interest, the effect of taxes, and the effect of risk. So risk is more about stocks, right? We're going to talk about this lower as well to understand the risk. And number 4, this is more step number 4. This is more when we are already in our retirement age. Preserve your legacy. So create a valuable estate can take a lifetime of effort. What if something happens and you can lose everything? That's why it's very important to be protected, because you've worked so hard to build something, to leave it for your family, and then something unforeseen happened and you lost it all. Protect the hard work with a plan to conserve and transfer your wealth during your lifetime. Make sure your legacy does not end up in the wrong hands. So this is very important. And also when some of these tax deferred categories, tax advantage categories, you can leave it as a will to your family that it's also tax-free. So it's very important to understand, to inform yourself, to know which products are those. So you will preserve your legacy, you're gonna leave it to your kids, and they will not have to pay taxes for that. That's why it's very important to study all of this, to tell as many people as we know, to share this information, because it's very important. Okay, so this is the end of my presentation. Anna is going to talk about financial foundation.
Okay.
Wow, thanks, Malvina.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so let me, I'll share my screen actually. Because I don't have these slides, Steve. I have my slides on this side. I can share that. Okay. Are you guys doing okay? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. All right, hold on just a minute here. Let's do the slide. Okay. Give me a second if it's gonna do it. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Yep, okay. All right. So, like Malvina did a great job of going through concept 1 through 6, I'm going to jump into 7 through 13 with you guys, okay? So, number 7 is financial foundation. So, first things first, I want to ask you guys this. Let me ask you this question. Would you build your house on sand? I know, pop quiz, right? Okay, no, right? Because one of the things is you are your greatest asset. Do you know that? Do you know that you guys are your greatest assets? So when you look at this, having proper protection is so important. So that is that first foundation for you. So I look at this as going through each layers, right? Like building Legos, building blocks. That's how I kind of look at this when you're building this financial foundation. So having that proper protection for your health, life, and income, because you are your greatest assets, having that protections for your family, for yourself. The second block is managing debt, right? So managing debt as in from good debt to bad debt. Now, the third block is having emergency fund. Now, before COVID, before the pandemic, expert says 3 to 6 months is a good source of having that household income, just in case if something happens. Now, we saw seen it. We went through COVID. We went through this pandemic, and now experts are saying having at least 6 to 8 months of household income, just in case if something happens. There are people that have lost their jobs during this pandemic that is still struggling to find that. So having this emergency fund is super important. And then that top block is your investments, right? So it's assets, children's, your future, your children's futures, your home repairments, everything that needs for your investments. So now, when you look at this, you see that how investments on top, emergency fund, managing debt, and proper protections. Each one has a layer. But what if you start building with investments first, right? And you don't care about proper protections, and you don't know how to manage your bad debt and good debt, and you don't have emergency fund. That falls apart, right? So it falls apart, and that's what happens. So what's important is making sure that your priorities are straight. Okay, you guys are still with me? Woo, good Monday night, right? Okay, so as we jump into number 8 here. So this is life insurance basics. So this is super simple. We kind of want to show you the 2 Swiss Army knives as an analogy. So we have one on the left is just a simple, less feature, and one on the right is heavy, it's more expensive, but it has more usage, okay? So let's think of it like this, you guys. Let's say we went camping for one night, okay? And the knife on the left would be good enough because why? It has a wine opener, it has a beer opener, it has a knife to cut your cheese and salami, so you can have it for one night, okay? But let's say something happens and you're stuck there for more than a night. You're stuck there for a whole month. Now you're looking, in this case, the right side, the more heavier, the more usage is more useful, right? Because now you're stuck for more than one night. So this is just an example, just an analogy about what life insurance, that people don't think that they need protections until something happens. And then they realize that they do need it. So that's what's the basics of life insurance basics. So let's jump into the 4 functions of life insurance. The first one is protections. What to protect, why you need protection, right? And what assets that you own that needs protection. So when you look back and you sit back, you think about, hey, what are your responsibilities right now? What are you taking care of? Like, who are you taking care of? Your family, your house, if you have that, if you have car payments, all of that, you got to know what to protect, right? Now, in number 2, the 4 functions of 2 of the 4, cash accumulation. So now you got to understand how interest works. how to grow your money, right? And where it's best to put your money for your situation. Okay. Number 3 is tax advantage. So you need to understand when you get tax and how it works, just like how Malvina talked about, like the tax now, tax advantage, tax later. Like you got to understand how to work around taxes by different tax timing categories or account legally. Okay, so that's a great way to also understand that. And the 4th one is estate planning. You don't know when you will die. Okay, that's the one fact. No one knows when they'll die. And if you don't have the proper protections or life insurance set up, your loved ones will be taxed. So for an example, I know I talk about this a lot, but I was raised by my grandparents, okay? After my grandfather passed, we thought that my grandfather's 401k account was gonna help us along with his life insurance that we thought he had. But after he passed, we didn't realize that he already cashed out his 401k for emergency funds and he didn't have life insurance. So everything fell on my shoulders. So that right there, that I got taxed on a lot of things like his property, I got taxed, so everything. So that estate planning, if you don't know, it's better to have something set up, right? So many of us don't realize that life insurance is the fastest way to actually pay off an estate tax. So those are the 4 functions of life insurance, just some basics that we just got to understand. Now, continuing this, okay? Why a personal financial checkup? So we need to understand, this is so important, and I know you probably went through the NAT on what's a PFC and all that. You keep hearing it over and over, but we have to understand that when you're in front of your client, it's not about you, okay? So it's not about me, it's not about you. It is about your client and what you got to do to meet with them, fill in the gaps and all that, to understand what their goals are, their financial goals, their retirement goals, their family, where are they? So what they're trying to accomplish is, which functions of life insurance will be needed. And that's why we go into the DIME method to calculate how much coverage our client needs. And it's so important to do a PFC just to figure out the missing gaps, just so that we can have the minimum amount. That's the reason for that. So when you look at this, DIME, the D stands for debt, okay? I stands for income. So when you look at your clients, you got to take their income, times it by 10 years, okay? M is for mortgage, if they have a mortgage, rent, and E is for education. So if they have kids, per kid is a minimum of 100,000 in education. Can you believe that? I don't have kids yet, but I can't even imagine if the ones that have kids, like that's a lot of money. So that's the reason. So when you calculate all that up, now you have that total proper protection needed, okay? So let's do a pop quiz, okay? So let's say, I hope you guys wrote that down. Did you guys write that down there? Okay, so let's say I'm your client. Let's say I have a debt of $40,000. Okay, write it down. And my income is at $100,000 annually. I have a mortgage that's still left at $350,000. Sorry, did I go too fast?
Yes.
Okay.
Once again, you're in.
Okay, so my debt is $40,000. My income annually is $100,000. That's my annual income. My mortgage is $350,000. Okay, and I have one kid. One kid. Okay, so what is that minimum protection that I need? Take your time. I think Sophia has a leverage because I think this is part of my freshman academy.
So I think it's 1,490,090.
Yeah, good job. See? Woohoo!
Oh my God.
See? Get you guys going. Let's see where my screen is at now. Hold on. lost my space here. Okay, so can you guys still see it? No?
Not yet.
Okay, there it is. Okay, so yeah, so that's really on what the dime method is having that minimum amount of protection needed and understanding what our clients' goals are, okay? So Christina FD talked about this, and this is what kind of stood out, the types of life insurance, okay? So the different types, how she compared this was cell phones, okay? How cell phones kind of developed over time. And so let's say, for instance, cell phones to insurance, right? I don't know, I'm 30. So the first phone I have is a Razor phone, okay? So those flip phones, it's a Razor. Fast forward now, we are now at like an iPhone 13 Pro Max with everything that you need to know on this phone. So just like life insurance, this is how it goes. So starting here, it's the first type is term life. It's inexpensive, that's the pros of it, but the cons, it's temporary, okay? There's no cash value. Now,
Anna, I'm sorry for interrupting, but the screen, it's still, I don't know the others, but I don't see your screen. It's still loading.
Yeah, maybe it's just yours, Sophia. We could see it fine.
Yeah? No, okay.
oh,
Probably
is it
mine.
okay? Let me see.
See, probably my phone is dying.
Oh,
That's why I don't see it. Let's check.
can you see it now?
We were able to see it. It was her internet service.
Oh, okay. 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 So yeah, so as I'm continuing here, so Sophia, just let me know if you still can't see it, okay? So the second one here is term life. So return of premium. The pros of it, it's inexpensive, there's a return, but the cons of it, it's only temporary, right? What if you outlive your term life? So that's where it comes down to. Now, as it develops, now we're going into whole life. So whole life, the pros of it, it's permanent, okay? It's low interest and inflexible. And then the universal life insurance, it's flexible premium, there's a death benefit, but it's low interest, that's the con. And then as it develops over time again, there's variable universal life. There's a potential high interest, but the cons of it, it's risky, okay? So it kind of mirrors the market. And then you have index universal life. So there's a guaranteed floor, okay? However, the cons of it, there's a cap to the returns. So those are different types of life insurance that I compare it to cell phones just because just as over the course of the years, it has been developed over time. Any questions so far? Okay. Okay, so let's kind of continue. Let's kind of walk through this, okay, or talk through this. The types of life insurance, another analogy, okay? So as we're looking at here at how the types of life insurance work, say for instance, you decide, let's say you're driving to Seattle and you decide to park on the street for $5, okay? You have that risk of having your car broken into, homeless walking around your car, maybe sleeping next to it, okay? But you had zero return, it's $5 to stay on that to street park. But then you decided, you know what, as you drive in a couple blocks, you're like, oh, maybe I'll just do $10 a day in a public garage, okay? But when you leave, you get $10 in return, right? So safer than street, but it's in public garage. Now, say the public garage is not something that you're looking for because people are still breaking into it. Then you got the premium, the VIP, valet, security, 24/7, $20 a day. You can park there all day, and when you leave, you get $40 in return. So maybe like when you're looking at this here, so when we look at these parking, it's like life insurance, okay? We have term, we have the whole with the $10 return, and then we have the IUL. And you may want to park at this $20, but what if you only have $5, right? So we have to understand that someone's financial situations also affects the types of insurance that is appropriate for them. So that is why it's so important to do a PFC, to do the dime, because everyone's financial situation is different, right? So that's the reason why we broke it down to street, $10, say 20. Those are kind of a different analogy that you can look at too. So far, so good? All right. We're going to jump into mortgage concept with number 9 here. Okay, so when you take a look at how mortgages works, okay, and so funny because I studied to get my broker's license, and I think Malvina, you know, she has real estate background, and when we sat through this, I was like, I still don't understand. So it took me a while to kind of get through this, okay? But the majority of your money goes into interest the first 7 to 10 years. And when you refinance your home or you move, right, you're starting that process all over again. Okay, and you keep repeating it. So as you continue this process, at the end of the day, you're just paying interest. Okay, and you're just making the bank rich. That's pretty much how it works. And that's why it's 90% interest in the first 7 to 10 years. Okay, so we're gonna go into this. So let's say you guys have an extra $100,000. Okay, let's say person A is the red and person B is the blue. So let's say person A decides to put their extra $100,000 towards their down payment towards their house, while person B decides to not do that, but actually put their extra $100,000 towards a side fund, right? For his money to grow differently. Okay, so the person that puts their money in their home is thinking what? Oh my gosh, as the market goes up, you know, my money is growing, right? So same thing with person B too. The money that they invested in the side fund, as it's growing, it's also going up. So that would lower, so that's kind of looking at person A and person B here. Now, let's say who earns the more when they're putting that extra 100,000. I think I just hold on. Let me just rephrase that question. Real quick. Okay, so say this person A put that extra 100,000 in their house, while person B put that extra 100,000 in a side fund. Say that the market goes up, and also everything that goes up. Who do you think earned more? No.
One on the right side.
The one on the right side. Okay. But say that as the, let's say when the market goes down, right? So let's say the market goes down, the value of the house goes down, right? Who do you think lost? Malvina?
I lost.
Okay, so when you know it's okay, because when I asked Steve FD, how many times did I have to go through this? Multiple times, right? So the person A who put their money towards their house, when the market went down, the value of their house went down too. So that means person A also lost, because why? The value of their house went down. While person B, even though their house value went down, that $100,000 that they invested into a side fund didn't go down with that, right? It's in a different account. So that's why person A lost, is because that extra $100,000 is going towards their house. And that's why the house, when it decreased, that money went with it. That kind of makes sense? Cool. Nice. Okay. So when you're comparing wealth options here, so let's say this, for instance, both of their house are worth the same, right? When that put that 100,000. So the first one here with simple interest, that $100,000, I don't know why there's a 0 here in this slide. So just don't look at that, okay? But with this being said, when you look at the cost of mortgage, it's simple interest, right? That's what person A did. They put it in the cost of their mortgage, while versus person B, putting that $100,000 with an 8% compound in the side fund with compound interest. So that's what comparing wealth option is, with cost of mortgage versus side funds. Is everyone following me? You guys are really quiet, so, okay. All right, so let's do this one, okay? Let me just break this down even more. Comparing the wealth options with cost of mortgage with simple interest. So let's say the return is 8%. I know the current rate right now is around 4%, but let's just keep it at 8%, just keep it simple. So we're gonna go with the 8% just to make it simple to follow. So say the cost of mortgage of simple interest, right? So person A who decided to put that extra $100,000 towards their mortgage, in year 10, you can see that with that 8% return, it saves $80,000. In year 20, okay, they save $160,000. In year 30, $240,000. Now, just keep in mind that the tax deductions on the mortgage, 33% over 30 years, okay, 8,000, that's why it's times it by 33, times it by 30 years. That's how much person A really saved, $160,000. Versus person B, who decided to put it in aside funds instead of their house in a compound interest account, earning 8%, same thing at 30 years, 100,000. So this is what Malvina talked about with the rule of 72. So we're using the rule of 72 here. So every 9 years, it doubles up, right? So approximately, I don't know why I just jumped like that, but over 30 years here, it gained $1 million in the side fund account. So when you're looking at the approximate difference, it's 840,000. So when you're looking at, you guys kind of know the difference between simple and versus compound. That's what comparing wealth options in person A versus person B. Okay. So any questions so far? Did I confuse you? Okay. So did I confuse you? Okay, should we go back?
No.
Okay, so let me just kind of continue with the misfortune, okay? So with misfortune here, so this is another thing that I learned with Christina FD, okay? So dead money versus live money. So let's say you invested a one-time $10,000 in the stock market. You're not going to add it, and let's just say you let it ride. In the first year, it goes up 50%. In the second year, it goes down 50%. So it's 7,500. So in the third, so let's say that when you're looking at it this way, let's say that you're letting it ride for 4 years. What do you think is the ending balance? $56.25. Okay, and how we got that, this is how it breaks it down. So in year 1, let's say that you're letting it invest for $10,000 in the market, right? As the market goes up 50%, your new ending balance is at 15. So in year 2, as it goes down, your starting balance is at 15. The market goes down 50%. Now your ending balance is 7,500. In year 3, you can see why the starting balance is different. Going back up, that's your ending balance. So when you're seeing it here, in year 4, starting balance is 11,250. The market goes back down. Now that's the reason why your ending balance is 56.25. Okay, so when you're not contributing consistently, you're what if something happens, right? If you're not consistent, then the money is either going to go down. If you're not adding to it, your ending balance is going to be different. So that's the reason why it's called dead money versus live money when you're looking at it this way. So with the dollar cost average, let's say, continuing it with this right here, let's talk about the dollar cost average. Let's say that you guys are contributing, for instance, in month 1, okay? In month 1, you're contributing at $1,000. The cost of a share is $1,000, okay? The numbers of shares that you're going to purchase is 1. So the number of shares that you're gonna own is 1. So your total value for this first share in month 1 is $1,000. Now, in year 2, so this is where the live money comes in. You're contributing another 1,000. Now that cost of that one share is now down to $1. So the numbers of purchase that you're going to, the numbers of shares that you're going to purchase is 1,000. Why is that? Is because it's $1 a share. So now you own 1,001 numbers of shares. Okay, so now the total value, if you sold it, is 1,001. Now in month 3, same thing, same contribution, but now the cost of that one share is at 10, and the number of shares that you purchase now is 100. Okay, So now the numbers of shares that you own in month 3 is 1,101. So the total value, if sold, is $11,010. Do you see how that works? Between the dollar cost average versus dead money versus live money. So as you contribute, the money goes up, down, but you're contributing it every single month. That's why it's different. And the total value, if sold, is a different cost at the end. So this is what people do in the market, is when we're looking at this Misfortune 101, we're not saying that the stock market, okay, is bad. We just want to educate you guys on how it works. So that way, when you're investing and you're contributing money, or you're letting it sit there like a 401k, if you do decide to move jobs, how it all works if you're not contributing versus when you are. So as we continue here, this is the 4 quadrants of savings, okay? So let's say you guys won the Mega Million, okay? Where would you put your money? Sam, where would you put your money if you won that Mega Million?
I would put it in an insurance company.
Nice, you've been going through the NATs. Okay, so okay. But if you had a friend who worked at the bank, your friend will probably tell you, hey, put your money in a bank, right?
Of course.
And then, yeah, so, and if you have a friend that works in real estate, let's say Malvina, they'll probably like, no, invest in real estate, right? And then let's say you have a friend that is a broker who's like, no, put it in the market. So every person's is the same with like real estate, stocks, insurance companies. But it's on you to know the pros and the cons. So that way you determine what's best for you. And that way you're in control. And you need to know, so that way your clients also trust you when you're going through the 4 quadrants of savings. So the first one, very simple, and how it works is, you already know, banks, they're safe, they're convenient, it's low interest. In real estate, it's tax deductions, possible assets, right? Long-term liabilities. The stock market, it's the high rate, you saw it, the Misfortune 101's high rate of return when the market is good. But you're also knowing is the high risk. And then there's insurance companies, the protections, cash accumulations, tax advantage, estate planning. And of course, the cons is the cost of the insurance and it being long-term, okay? So when we go through this is the circles of financial institutions, okay? There are 3 types of institutions that do investments. The first ones are banks, okay? There are 10,000 banks around the world, and there's 8,800 in investments and 2,000 insurance companies, okay? Now, out of the 10,000 banks, there's 5 trillion money backed on it. In investments, there are 8.8 trillions, and there are 4.5 trillions in insurance companies, okay? So now when you think of trillions, think of it like this. Malvina, since I can only see Malvina, Steve, and Sam, so that's why I'm picking on you, right? Let's say I give you $1 million a day for 2,700 years, okay? That will be $1 trillion. So that's how it breaks down. So it's a big number that each institution has, right? So when we look at this, you think of it as, Dan, investment has 8.8 trillions in backing, right? But now let's kind of take a look even more. So if we look at this, if we were to take, let's say, the ratio wise and look at each one, the banks only has 570 million, okay? While investment has 1 billion, and insurance companies is 2.225 billion, right? So why are we kind of breaking this down like this? Is because it goes like this, right? So what we can get from all this, from banks, which is safe, right? Investment, which is high returns, and insurance, which is tax-free and protections. So when we talk about an IUL, we get the best of all 3, okay? So, you know, with banks and high return, that's what it's called, an IUL. So the reason for that, it comes with protections, emergency, retirement, college, and savings. So when we say why an IUL, why they, during NITs, they talk about this, is because it comes with perks. It comes with that safety net of the bank, the high returns like an investment, and then the tax-free and protections like with the insurance. So it just comes with the perks and you get the benefits of all of that. So yeah. Okay, so then as we move on to interest concept here, the interest concept is there are 3 types of interest concepts, okay? The fixed one, we all know that we want to play it safe, but it does get outpaced by inflation, okay? While variable interest, it's high return, okay? Just what it mirrors with the market, it's also high risk. And then there's index interest, which is the safe high returns, and also limited, as in there's a floor and a cap. Okay, so that's what, there's a 3 interest concepts. So just breaking it down, let's say, so this is, let's just take a little closer look at this graph here, okay? Let's say Steve and I decided to invest $100,000, okay? Now let's say that Steve here talked to someone at Census, okay, and decided to put it in and decided to invest his money into an IUL to earn his index interest. While me, I'm like, you know what, Steve, you do you, I'm gonna do me. I'm gonna actually invest this into the market. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, okay? So then, and then there is Sam who decided to just put it in a fix and just keep it safe to let it ride it with the market, okay? So she don't need all, like, he don't need all the bells and whistles. So census captured from 1999 to 2001. So let's just say in this, okay? Let's kind of break it down in a scenario. So in year 20, Steve calls me up and asked and said, hey, the market is going up. I'm at 6%. Where are you at, Anna? I'm like, Steve, I just went way past you. I'm at 18.49%, okay? I outdid you, okay? So a year later, I call him up, sorry. I call him up and I'm like, hey, Steve, like, how are you doing? You know, the market kind of went down. I'm down 11.82%. Steve goes, oh, wow, I'm at 0%. I'm like, how is that possible, right? Because he's in an index, there's a floor, that's the reason. While the market, it just goes, there's a risk to that. So let's just say we go on with our life, right? We continue. And in year 2003, I call Steve up again. I'm like, Steve, how are you doing? Right? I'm at negative 21.25%. He goes, wow, Anna, I'm actually still at 0. I'm not losing any money because I have a floor here. So over time, as the market goes up, you know, I'm trying my best to kind of gain what I've lost, while Steve here, he's just going for it. He's just gaining money with compound as it continues. He's not losing anything while I'm trying to keep up with the pace. So in 2011, we decided to kind of get together and just really see where our money has grown, right? And talk about our gains. And pretty much as you look at it here, I kind of started back where I first invested in 1999, while Steve has grown his money to 140,000. And Sam, he's at that fix. He didn't need any bells or the whistle, so he just got outpaced by inflation. So those are the difference between variable, index, and fixed, just to kind of give you a little story on how it all works over time. And that is my presentation. So.
All right, great job. Okay.
Alrighty.
So you both did great job today and well prepared. I really like the new PowerPoint, definitely. And it seemed like you guys made quite a bit of change. I did wrote down some of the, I wouldn't call it deficiency, but some of the things that they need to be corrected. However, I got the whole list, but here's a homework for you guys. Go back. I'm going to stop the live share